You know what? No cute intro. Ohio Restaurant and Hospitality Alliance, or ORA, did something stupid, and I'm going to wreck them. They rigged a survey to show that 93% of service workers like getting paid below minimum wage. Which is, yes, something a corrupt lobbying organization would do, but they rigged it so hard that the whole thing looks insane. Which is why you are here, because you want to see if what the thumbnail promised is true. Are 86% of waitresses in Ohio white? No, of course not. That's an insane number. The 93% of service workers wanting to get paid less than minimum wage is a more believable number. Why did they do this? Well, there's a group called One Fair Wage fighting to put a ballot initiative up for a vote in November that would raise the minimum wage for tipped workers, like waitresses who currently get paid below minimum wage. That's why they are putting out this rigged survey, to try and fight that. How do I know it's rigged? Well, that's easy. I read the methodology of the survey. Participating restaurants, most of which members of the Restaurant Trade Group Coalition, distributed the survey to their tipped employees. Horrible wording aside, did you get that? Restaurant owners gave the surveys to employees they thought were sympathetic to their view, and boom, they have a survey that says tipped workers don't want to be paid minimum wage. Need more proof? The company that ran the survey, Corcom, has been doing this stupid fake survey all over the country. In Massachusetts, they claimed that 86% of tip workers didn't want to make minimum wage. In Illinois, it was 87%. In Rhode Island, it was 91%. And in Michigan, it was 75%. Actually, in Michigan, we got a peek behind the curtain. An article about the Michigan Corcom survey said that workers were being handpicked by the bosses to take the survey. What a shock that the survey said exactly what the restaurant owners wanted it to say. Who could have predicted that? And before I go any further, that fact in of itself is fully disqualifying. If you are handpicking participants for your survey based on the likelihood of their responses matching your preferred outcome, you are not doing a survey, you are creating propaganda. A survey is meant to take a sample of a population as a whole, which this most certainly does not. Anyway, back in Ohio, the quote-unquote survey itself screams out rigged before you can even take that into account. Look at the map on this survey. Check out the southeast part of Ohio. Literally zero responses from anywhere in the 28 counties that make up southeastern Ohio, except for some insane reason, 8% of all total results come from a tiny college town, Athens, Ohio. How the hell did that happen? Meet Art Oestreich. He's a member of the Ohio Restaurant and Hospitality Alliance Board of Directors, the Nimrods who paid for this survey. He owns 3 restaurants in Athens and 1 in Columbus, all some variation of Jackie O's, a brewery, restaurant, pub kind of thing. Anyway, guess who's hosted not 1 but 2 events organizing against an increase in the minimum wage for tipped workers? Why, Athens, Ohio's very own Art Oestreich. I know you're shocked. I found a picture from one of the events. Doesn't look like a terribly fun affair. It's like Edward Hopper's Nighthawks, but if management had heard there was a union organizer in the area. So no shock that 8% of the results in the survey came from Athens. I wouldn't be shocked if every survey returned from Athens came from an employee of Jackie O's. But that's enough about Athens and Art. Let's zoom out to the surrounding counties, because if you thought the Athens part was wacky, you ain't seen nothing yet. Because the 28 counties around Athens, the city, not the county, didn't get a single response. Why is that? Does ORA hate the southeastern, rural Appalachian part of Ohio? No, ORA doesn't hate southeastern Ohio. That would be crazy. They hate poor people. Here's an Ohio County map from a 2020 article about family income. As you can see, most of the lowest income counties are in southeastern Ohio, where the ORA survey didn't get a single result, except from ORA board member Art Oestreich's restaurants in a single town. In ORA's survey about whether tipped workers want an increase in the minimum wage, they skipped over the lowest income area of the state. But that's not the craziest part of the whole thing. Remember how I kicked off this video by mocking the idea of 86% of waitresses in Ohio being white? Now add in the part where everyone who took the survey was personally selected because restaurant owners trusted these people to give the right answers, so to speak. Now for the final ingredient in this potion of madness. If you ignore the southeastern part of Ohio, like ORA did, you miss 6 of the 7 whitest counties in the state, all of which have a 95% white population. So if you take out the whitest part of the state, it should follow that the percent of white people in your survey pool would be lower. But that's not what happened. ORA cut out a large part of the white population of Ohio and still came up with a demographic that was far whiter than the general population. On screen is a demographic map, dark blue for a county that is 95% white. For reference, 77% of Ohio is white according to the Census Bureau. And while we're throwing numbers out, the National Restaurant Association says that the percentage of waitresses who are white usually trails the population at large, with the percentage of white people in the U.S. being 60%, and the percentage of white waitresses being at around 54%. So not only is the 86% of Ohio waitresses being white number a farce on its face, it gets more crazy the farther you go down. The number does not reflect the population at large, and the best methodology for predicting who got the survey is whomever the restaurant owners felt was most dependable to them. Finally, they cut out the whitest part of the population when they conducted this thing, which makes the 86% even more unrepresentative. So I have to ask, after all that, what does the 86% number mean at this point? Because at this point, it's not a bland demographic number. It is literally the result of a bunch of rich people in Ohio being given survey codes and told them to give them to the employees they trusted the most to give the right answer. And the overwhelming result was white people. And I have no idea what to do with that except comment that was probably not the intended result of the survey when the Ohio Restaurant and Hospitality Alliance and Corcom started out. Moving on, I'm going to show you how dishonest and deceptive Aura has been beyond this survey, because... First, let's go to Aura's anti-one-fair wage website, Protect Tips Ohio. And here's a little pop-up touting the survey results. And oh, there's a little YouTube video at the bottom. I love YouTube videos. They're so full of incriminating evidence. The YouTube video in question is a We Are the World style montage of presumably tipped workers reading a statement about how making the minimum wage is bad or something. They close out by saying, "Don't mess with our tips." Yawn. I guess that's going to be the tagline for the AstroTurf campaign they're going to run this fall. What's interesting is one of the people in the commercial, Kelsey M. It looks like she works at a place called the Submarine House. I think I remember a story about Submarine House from a few years ago, something about them ripping people off. Here, let me show you a clip from it.
Submarine House chain is backing off, charging customers what it calls an extra fee. It told News Center 7 it quickly made the change after negative feedback. News Center 7's John Bedell reached out to the business today and talked with a customer who said she was not happy with that extra fee.
My, that sounds ghastly. Fees tacked on instead of honestly presenting prices. It is the act of a dishonest restaurant owner to do something like this. Like Submarine House owner Brody Danner, who, wouldn't you know it, is also a member of the Ohio Restaurant and Hospitality Alliance Board of Directors. What are the odds that someone dishonest would be on the Aura Board of Directors? But you were probably wondering what all this has to do with the aforementioned Kelsey M., aren't you?
I reached out to Submarine House. Right now, their website says they have 8 locations across the Dayton area. In a statement, the company said, with the skyrocketing cost of everything from raw goods to materials to labor, we were exploring the inflation fee as an option in lieu of an overall price increase. We received some pretty negative feedback that made us reconsider, and we decided against it after 3 days. The company confirmed to me the fee is no longer there, and they'll have to go with higher prices instead.
In case you missed it, Kelsey M. is Kelsey Mears, and she was giving the statement as to why the Submarine House was ripping off its customers, in her role as Director of Franchise Sales for Submarine House, which, as far as I know, is not a tipped position. And if you are wondering why she was pretending to be a waitress in that commercial, I'd suggest you aim higher and consider whether she is one of the people who filled out a survey, because I think there's almost a 100% chance she did. By the way, there's probably a couple of you who are about to accuse me of jumping to conclusions, as in, maybe there's 2 people named Kelsey who work at Submarine House who have a last name initial of M. Maybe it's a coincidence. To those people I respond with, there are 2 news stories about Submarine House with her in it. The other has video of her, and it's her, but it's a paid promotion of Submarine House food, and I couldn't in good conscience expose you to that. Their food looks horrible. Plus, the story about the owner of Submarine House ripping people off is too funny not to use. Anyway, speaking of coincidences, let's jump to the press conference where Aura revealed this survey to the world. They got a waitress to speak at the presser. Guess which restaurant she's from? Allow me to introduce you to Lindsay Odell from Submarine House. As far as I know, she's just a waitress. Sorry, no fun reveals here. With Lindsay Odell, I do have other fun reveals not involving her. For example, the eagle-eyed among you may have spied another waitress in the background wearing a Submarine House t-shirt. That would be an incorrect read, as she is not a waitress. That is, at least according to Lori Bischoff of the Columbus Dispatch, that is Robin McGrath, a franchisee restaurant owner of Submarine House. Goodness, Submarine House has quite the presence in this minimum wage campaign. The owner is on the Ohio Restaurant and Hospitality Alliance Board of Directors. The director of franchise sales is starring in a commercial demanding people not touch her tips. And both a franchisee restaurant owner and a waitress showed up to announce the survey results. Quite the coincidence. But not as big a coincidence as where they announced the results of their fake survey. They announced the results at the Columbus location of a restaurant owned by an Aura board member, Jackie O's. That's right, Art Oestreich, the guy who was single-handedly responsible for making Athens, Ohio the source for 8% of the results for the state, also hosted the press conference for the survey. Again, what are the odds? One final coincidence from this already coincidence-laden press conference, this is Lori Torres. She's the owner of Majorca Restaurant in Cleveland, and she has strong reservations about raising the minimum wage for tipped workers. And that's how every news story that had quotes identified her. That's how the Protect Tips Ohio website identifies her, which is unfortunate because I'm pretty sure it would have been more informative to their viewers and readers if she had been correctly identified as Lori Torres, member of Aura Board of Directors. It's not exactly a hard search, Ohio journalists. It took me 2 seconds. But that's just one minor mistake. I'm sure they handled the rest of the story with the cool professionalism we are used to from the media.
New tonight at 6, a proposal to raise the minimum wage here in Ohio almost 45% isn't sitting well with some restaurant workers. Tonight, we hear why they say it's actually quite sour to their survival. Here's CNTV's Angela Ann with their story.
Nope, they actually biffed it. Uncritical reporting and zero pushback. Actually, I'm not sure any of them read the survey in question. There is a clip from a Cleveland Plain Dealer podcast that blew my mind by how poorly informed it was. Let's see if you can count the crazy things said in this 23-second clip.
Well, also, I just wanted to kind of point out, too, with this survey that sparked this conversation, those 900 and something restaurants that responded to the survey, those were all over the state.
And we don't know if they were concentrated in any one part of the state. So we don't really know the distribution of them by way of geography or by way of the financial
types of
level
restaurants.
Of the restaurant, yeah.
The person who didn't open the survey to look at the map of where the results came from is Paris Wolfe. She wrote the story for the Cleveland Plain Dealer on the survey. That's what we're dealing with here. Which is why it won't shock you to learn that Aura bragged about how easy it was to trick journalists.
We have really been successful at getting some positive earned media. Myself and John Barker, our CEO, have been able to get stories both on TV and in the newspaper. And generally speaking, we've been able to get our side of why this is problematic for Ohio's communities and Ohio's small businesses.
I don't know about you, but if there was a video of a lobbyist bragging about how easy it was to trick me, I would do some serious thinking about my career choice. That's from a Chamber of Commerce meeting in Hamilton County, Ohio. And that's kind of the problem. No, I don't expect bad actors like the Ohio Restaurant and Hospitality Alliance to stop being bad guys because I caught them once. I expect they will continue to be bad actors. But the media, journalists, aren't holding their end of the bargain up. To close out this video, I'm going to look at the article on the survey and news conference from what I consider to be one of the most credible news sources, the Ohio Capital Journal. The Ohio Capital Journal is part of States Newsroom, a nonprofit organization that is pushing higher local coverage by putting newsrooms in state capitals. They also don't have a paywall, so I like them. But let's see how they covered this story. Well, not good. There was zero pushback on the numbers, and the story quoted like they were real numbers and not the product of a survey created by pre-screening the respondents to weed out anybody who might have given a negative answer. There's other problems as well. Remember Lori Torres, the owner of Majorca Restaurant and Aura board member? Well, that board membership isn't disclosed in this story either. And I would be more than willing to overlook that in this case, if the Ohio Capital Journal didn't headline the part of the story directly in front of her quote with, "Workers speak out against raising minimum wage." Really? That's how you lead into a quote from a business owner and Aura board member, "Workers speak out against raising minimum wage," and I'm done. I expect the best from States Newsroom affiliates, but like everybody else, the Ohio Capital Journal dropped the ball. I hope you've learned something from this video, that Corcom runs surveys, large quotation marks, by having state restaurant associations give the questionnaires to pre-screened employees, that state restaurant associations are incredibly dishonest, having front office workers pose as waitresses and having business owners hide their affiliation so they can get in front of the camera and pretend to be an unbiased party, and finally, that whenever the media is given a survey as a news story, they'll just throw their hands up, say numbers are hard, and report them uncritically. even if they are insane. If they can't judge whether a survey is legitimate or not, they shouldn't be reporting it. I'm History Sock, and I'll see you at the next committee hearing.